Hello, welcome to BBC America Radio. Tonight for you we have a short story by D.H. Lawrence called The Rocking Horse Winner. We hope you enjoy our presentation. Thank you.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away,
There was a woman who was beautiful, who started with all the advantages, yet she had no luck. She married for love, and the love turned to dust. She had bonny children, yet she felt they had been thrust upon her, and she could not love them. Only she herself knew that a center of her heart was a hard little place that could not feel love. Everyone else said about her, "She's such a good mother. She adores her children." Only she herself, and her children themselves, knew it was not so. There were a boy and 2 little girls. They lived in a pleasant house with a garden, and they had discreet servants, and they felt themselves superior to anyone in the neighborhood. Although they lived in style, they always felt an anxiety in the house. There was never enough. Both parents had insufficient incomes, and so the house came to be haunted by the unspoken phrase, "There must be more money. There must be more money." It came whispering from expensive luxuries they could not afford. They all heard it, but no one said it aloud.
Mother,
Said the boy Paul.
why don't we keep a car of our own? Why do we always use Uncle's, or else a taxi?
because we're the poor members of the family.
Said the mother.
But why are we, Mother?
Well, I suppose
She said slowly and bitterly.
it's because your father has no luck.
Is like money, Mother?
He asked, rather timidly.
No, Paul, not quite. It's what causes you to have money. If you're lucky, you have money. That's why it's better to be born lucky than rich. If you're rich, you may lose your money, but if you're lucky, you will always get more money.
And is Father not lucky?
Very unlucky, I should say.
She said bitterly. The child looked to her as if she meant it.
Well, anyhow,
He said stoutly.
I'm a lucky person.
Why?
Said his mother with a sudden... He stared at her. He didn't even know why he had said it.
God told me.
He asserted, brazening it out.
I hope he did, dear.
She said, again with a laugh, but rather bitter.
He did, Mother.
Excellent.
Said the mother, using one of her husband's exclamations. He went off by himself vaguely, in a childish way, seeking for the clue to luck. He wanted luck. He wanted it. He wanted it. When the 2 girls were playing dolls in the nursery, he would sit on his big rocking horse, charge madly into space, with a frenzy that made the little girls peer at him uneasily. He knew the horse could take him where there was luck, if only he forced it.
Hello, young jockey. Right a winner.
Said his uncle.
Aren't you going too big for a rocking horse? You're not a very little boy any longer, you know.
Said his mother. But Paul only gave a blue glare from his big, rather close-set eyes. He would speak to nobody when he was in full tilt. His mother watched him with an anxious expression on her face. At last he finally stopped his horse and into the mechanical gallop and slid down.
Well, I got there.
He announced fiercely, with his eyes still flaring blue and his sturdy long legs straddling apart.
Where did you get to?
Asked his mother.
Where I wanted to go.
He fled back at her.
It's an inanimate object.
You're an inanimate object! That's right, son.
Said Uncle Oscar.
Don't stop till you get there.
He doesn't have a name.
Said the boy.
Well, he has different names. He was called Sansevino last week.
Setzavino, eh? Won the Asgard. How do you know about his name?
He always talks about horse races with Bassett.
Said Joan. The uncle was delighted to find that his small nephew was posted with all the racing news. Bassett lived in the racing events, and the small boy lived with him.
Master Paul comes and asks me, so I can't do more than to tell him so.
Said Bassett.
It's like this, you see, sir.
Said Bassett.
Master Paul would get me talking about racing events, spinning yarns, you know, sir.
We're all right when we're sure.
Said Paul.
It's when we're not quite sure that we go down.
Oh, but we're careful then.
Said Bassett.
But when are you sure?
Smiled Uncle Oscar.
It's Master Paul, sir.
Said Bassett in his secret, religious voice.
It's as if he had it from heaven.
But where's the money?
Asked the uncle.
I keep it safe locked up, sir. Master Paul, he can have it any minute he likes to ask for it.
You see, it's all right, Uncle, when I'm sure. Then we go strong for all we're worth, don't we, Bassett?
Paul said.
We do that, Master Paul.
Replied Bassett.
And when are you sure?
Said the uncle, laughing.
Well, sometimes I'm sure and sometimes I'm not, but I don't know why.
Oscar became a partner, and when the Leger was coming on, Paul was sure about the lively spark, which was quite an inconsiderable horse. The boy insisted on putting 1,000 on the horse. Bassett went for 500, and Oscar Creswell went for 200. Lively Spark came in first, and the betting had been 10 to 1 against it. Paul had made 10,000.
You see?
He said.
I was absolutely sure of him.
Even Oscar Creswell had cleared 2,000.
Look here, son,
He said.
this sort of thing makes me nervous.
It needn't, Uncle. Perhaps I shan't be sure again for a long time.
But what are you going to do with your money?
Asked the uncle.
Of course,
Said the boy.
I started it for Mother. She said she had no luck because Father's unlucky. So I thought if I was lucky, it might stop whispering.
What might stop whispering?
Our house. I hate our house for whispering. It's always short of money. It's awful, that is. I thought if I was lucky...
You might stop it.
Added the uncle. The boy watched him with big blue eyes that had an uncanny cold fire in them, and he said never a word.
Well then,
Said the uncle.
what are we gonna do?
They managed it very easily. Paul, at the other's suggestion, handed over £5,000 to his uncle, who deposited it with the family lawyer, who was then to inform Paul's mother that a relative had put £5,000 into his hands, which sum was to be paid out at £1,000 at a time on the mother's birthday for the next 5 years.
So she'll have a birthday present of £1,000 for 5 successive years.
Said Uncle Oscar.
I hope it won't make it hard for her later.
Paul's mother had her birthday in November. The house had been whispering worse than ever lately, and even in spite of his luck, Paul could not bear up against it. He was very anxious to see the effect of the birthday letter, telling his mother about the £1,000.
Changing scene.
She was down to breakfast on the morning of her birthday. Paul watched her face as she read her letters. He knew the lawyer's letter. As his mother read it, her face hardened and became more expressionless.
Didn't you have anything nice in the post for your birthday, Mother?
Said Paul.
Quite moderately nice.
She said, her voice cold and hard and absent. Paul's mother had had a long interview with the lawyer, asking if the whole 5,000 could not be advanced at once, as she was in debt.
What do you think, Uncle?
Said the boy.
I leave it to you, son.
Oh, let her have it then. We can get some more with the other.
Said the boy.
I'm sure to know for the Grand National, or the Lincolnshire, or else the Derby. I'm sure to know for one of them.
Said Paul. So Uncle Oscar signed the agreement, and Paul's mother touched the whole 5,000. Then something very curious happened. The voices in the house suddenly went mad, like a chorus of frogs on a spring evening. There was certain new furnishings, and Paul had a tutor. He was really going to Eton, his father's school, in the following autumn. There were flowers in the winter, and a blossoming of the luxury Paul's mother had been used to. And yet the voices in the house, behind the sprays of mimosa and almond blossom, and from under the piles of iridescent cushions, simply trilled and screamed in a sort of ecstasy. There must be more money. Oh, there must be more money. Oh, now, there must be more money. More than ever, more than ever.
Let it alone, son. Don't bother about it.
Urged Uncle Oscar. But it was as if the boy couldn't really hear what his uncle was saying.
I've got to know for the Derby. I've got to know for the Derby.
The child reiterated, his big blue eyes blazing with a sort of madness. Paul's secret of secrets was his wooden horse, which had no name. Since he was emancipated from a nurse and a nursery governess, he had his rocking horse removed to his own bedroom at the top of the house. So the horse, rather shabby, stood in a rested prance in the boy's bedroom. The Derby was drawing near, and the boy grew more and more tense. He hardly heard what was spoken to him. He was very frail, and his eyes were really uncanny. 2 nights before the Derby, she was at a big party in town when one of her rushes of anxiety about her boy. The children's nursery governess was terribly surprised and startled at being rung up in the middle of the night.
Are the children all right, Miss Wilmot?
Oh, yes. They are quite all right.
Master Paul, is he all right?
He went to bed as right as a trivet. It was about 1 o'clock when Paul's mother and father drove up to their house. Because of the strange anxiety in her house, she stole upstairs to her son's room. She suddenly switched on the lights, saw her son in his green pajamas madly searching on the rocking horse. The blaze of light suddenly lit him up.
Paul!
She cried.
Whatever are you doing?
It's Malabar!
He screamed in a powerful, strange voice.
It's Malabar!
Then he fell with a crash to the ground, and she, all her tormented motherhood flooding upon her, rushed to gather him up. But he was unconscious, and unconscious he remained, with some brain fever. He talked and tossed, and his mother sat stonily by his side.
Malabar!
And in spite of himself, Oscar Croswell spoke to Bassett, and he put him 1,000 on Malabar at 14-1. The third day of the illness was critical. They were waiting for a change. The boy, with his rather long, curly hair, was tossing ceaselessly on the pillow. He neither slept nor regained consciousness, and his eyes were like blue stones. His mother sat, feeling her hard heart had gone, and turned actually into a stone.
Master Paul,
He whispered.
Master Paul, Malabar came in first, all right. A clean win.
I never told you, Mother, that if I can ride my horse and get there, that I'm absolutely sure on. Absolutely. Mother, did I ever tell you I am lucky?
No, you never did.
Said his mother. But the boy died in the night. And even as he lay dead, his mother heard her brother's voice saying to her, "My God, Hester, yours 80,000 to the good, and the poor devil of a son to the bad. But poor devil, he's best gone out of a life where he rides the rocking horse to find a winner."
The end.